Good evening. You've arrived at the edge of the forest, where the road turns from cobblestone to moss, and the night grows kind. The lanterns along the path glow like warm pearls, and beyond them, there is a small wooden house with a gently sloped roof and wind chimes that barely stir. A sign hangs above the doorway. It says, in hand-painted letters, "The tea house at the edge of the forest. You are welcome here. Before we step inside, take a slow breath in and out. Again, in and out. The night air smells like dew and cedar. A soft rain finds the leaves, one silver drop at a time, each one helping your thoughts settle like tea leaves drifting to the bottom of a cup. The door is already open, only a little, just enough for the perfume of oolong and orange peel to meet you on the threshold. The floorboards do not creak. They sigh. Inside, there are small round tables, a long wooden counter, and shelves stacked with jars the color of moonlight and amber. Every jar is labeled in neat ink. Rose cloud, evening fern, lantern blossom, quiet river. You step in. The bell sounds like the end of a long day. Welcome, says a voice, calm and kind. It belongs to the tea master, who wears a linen apron and a smile that has no hurry in it. Their eyes are the color of warm bark. The forest has been expecting you, they say, as if the forest keeps a guest list. Find a seat you like. The kettle has just begun to think about singing. You choose a table by the window. Outside, the rain becomes finer, as if the sky is dusting the leaves with sleep. Inside, a kettle sits on the iron stove, and there is a little draft that smells of mint and wood smoke. Somewhere, a cat turns over on a cushion and decides to keep dreaming. First, the tea master says, "We warm the hands." They bring you a small cup with hot water, just water, so that you can cradle it. When the palms are warm, they say, the heart listens better. The cup is smooth as river stone. You hold it, and the warmth spreads through your fingers, across your wrists, up your forearms, and into your chest where the day's edges soften and fall away. On the shelf behind the counter is a jar you do not recognize. It is labeled Edge of the Forest. The tea master lifts it with both hands, the way a librarian lifts a favorite book. The lid opens with a soft pop, and a fragrance unfurls that is both green and toasted. Like wet pine needles, honey left in sunlight, and a quiet promise. Every night, the tea master says, "This blend is different." The forest chooses. They tilt the jar so you can see the leaves. Twisted oolong, threads of dried chrysanthemum, slivers of orange peel, a few unknown blossoms like tiny white stars. The kettle is shy at first, then braver. It builds toward a song you feel in your shoulders. The tea master warms your cup, measures the leaves with an old wooden spoon, and lets them fall into a clay pot that looks as though it remembers everything it has ever brewed. Hot water is poured in a thin ribbon, and an earthy sweetness rises. The tea master places a small sand glass on the table. The grains fall like a soft rain of time. "May I tell you about this place while we wait?" they ask. You nod. Your breath is already slower. Your back curls into the chair like a leaf settling at the bottom of the bowl. This tea house stands where maps fade, they begin. On the left is a town that forgets to sleep. On the right is a forest that remembers everything. People come here when they are ready to rest or ready to remember gently. They set out a honey jar, a thin slice of candied orange, and a little dish of pale sugar crystals that look like frost that decided to be sweet. Some nights, the tea master continues, the forest sends guests. Lantern moths tap the window with their paper-thin wings. A fox in a raincoat leaves paw prints on the mat. And when the wind is exactly right, the trees speak in the language of teacups. The sand glass whispers to a stop. The tea master pours. The liquid is gold with a green heartbeat. Steam rises in slow ribbons. You bring the cup to your lips and pause, because the first sip is a ceremony, the way a shoreline is a ceremony between land and sea. The taste is deep and kind. It begins bright, orange blossom and a smile you didn't know you still had, then drifts into toasted barley, then into pine needles after rain. There is a secret in it too, the kind that doesn't need telling. As you swallow, you feel your breath find a rhythm like waves, like the swing of a hammock beneath an evening breeze. Another, The tea master asks, already refilling. Here, they say, lowering their voice, listen. The rain outside is soft as silk. The kettle settles. Somewhere, a floorboard, only one, announces a small change in the universe. A lantern flickers and steadies, as if remembering a tune. People bring their days here, the tea master says. They pour them out on the table like coins, and we count them together. Not to spend, just to admire the pattern and then put them away. A traveler enters, damp from the rain. They make a courteous nod to you, to the tea master, to the cat, and sit at a far table with a notebook that does not want to be written in tonight. The tea master brings them a pot of quiet river, and soon their shoulders drop half an inch, which is all the river was asking for. You take another sip. Time grows wider, not longer. The tea master places a small bowl on your table. Inside is a single sugar crystal shaped like a tiny house, with a tiny roof and a tiny door that will never need to be locked. This one is for wishes, they say. You do not have to tell it to me. Just let it sit in your mouth until it dissolves. You try it. The sugar tastes like winter sunlight and the first page of a book. It melts slowly, and with it, a worry you carried here without noticing. Would you like to see the back room? The tea master asks at last. You follow them through a beaded curtain that sounds like rain made of wooden shells. The back room is smaller, dimmer, and filled with the quiet of old things. On one wall, a map shows a forest that looks like a sleeping animal. On another, a framed note reads, "Steep longer than you think. You have time." At the center sits a long wooden table with scratches in it from teacups and laughter and maybe a small knife once, to cut a cake. This is where the blending happens. This is where the forest sends hints. A sprig of something fresh lies beside a jar of something dried. The tea master holds them both the way you might hold two halves of a word that will make sense when whispered together. They open another jar and invite you to inhale. It smells like distant rain on a sunlit day, the way joy feels when it walks slowly so you can keep up. This is lantern blossom, they say. It glows if you let it steep long enough. Not bright, not to read by, just enough to remember your way to bed. You smile, and the tea master sees that and nods, as if they have been waiting for this precise arrangement of tea, rain, and your smile. Back in the main room, the traveler has stopped writing. Their pencil now marks time by not moving. The cat sits like a loaf of bread and blinks the slow blink that cats reserve for people who have done nothing wrong today. The lantern moths at the window have folded their paper wings and become decorations for the night. Would you like a second steep? The tea master asks, returning to your pot. The second is sometimes the true story. They pour. The tea is lighter now, more floral. You taste something like pear skin and clear water. It leaves no dust in your mind, polishes each thought and sets it down where it belongs, then dusts its hands and nods goodbye. If you like, the tea master says, I can tell you the history of this house. It isn't long. It isn't complicated. It fits neatly inside the time it takes to drink a cup. You nod and they begin. A long time ago, though not so long that we cannot remember it, the forest arrived at the edge of town. Not with branches and roots, but with attention. The forest noticed the people who were tired and kind and a little lost. It noticed the way they carried conversations like grocery bags, too many, too heavy, and the way they drifted toward windows at night to watch the lamplight of other windows. So the forest grew a doorway where no building stood. Just a doorway. People walking home from late shifts or early worries would find it, and the doorway would lead here, where there was always a kettle and a chair and a jar labeled edge of the forest. In time, someone decided to stay, to mind the kettle, to sweep the floor of fallen petals, to label the jars in their neat hand. That person taught another, who taught another. If you listen closely, on certain nights, you can hear all the quiet laughter of all the tea masters layered together. The way steeped leaves layer water with their stories. The tea master smooths the table with their palm. That is the history, they conclude. A doorway that grew because it was needed. A kettle that sings for those who are ready to hear. Outside, the rain eases until it is just a collection of memories softly falling. The forest, now fully night, leans closer to the windows as if to keep you company. The traveler has closed their notebook. The cat dreams of being a slightly bigger cat. The tea master refills your cup a final time and sets a small saucer beside it with a thin coil of candied orange. This is for the road, whether you walk it awake or dream it asleep, they say. Eat it slowly. Let the sweetness teach you to trust gentle endings. You lift the cup, and the warmth greets your hands like old friends. The tea is nearly silent now. You could call it water with a memory, or memory with a little water. You sip, and it becomes part of you, just as the slow midnight becomes part of the trees. The tea master writes something on a small card and slides it to you. It's not a bill. It's a wish written in that neat hand. May your shoulders know they can rest. May the long road become soft. May your sleep arrive as easily as steam rises. You tuck the card into your pocket as if pockets were invented for wishes. The bell will ring again when you leave, only once, only softly. But for now you remain because the chair is the right shape for you, and the room has exactly the number of sounds a room should have at this hour. The tea master tends to the stove, to the jars, to the quiet like a gardener who knows which plants prefer moonlight. If you like, you can close your eyes. The story does not need you to watch it to keep being kind. Listen to the rain. Listen to the kettle, which is not singing now, but remembering songs. Listen to your own breath in and out, as steady as a path that knows the way home. A small breeze slips in under the door and drifts across the floor to you, bringing the scent of pine and damp earth. It carries the tiniest feather of a lantern moth, which lands on your sleeve like a punctuation mark that means peace. In the half-sleep where thoughts become soft animals and curl at your feet, you find yourself repeating a simple phrase, as if the tea house whispered it in your ear. You are safe here. You are warm here. You are welcome here. The forest agrees. The rain agrees. The cat, in its dream, agrees too. And when your mind is ready to rest, the tea master brings a small folded napkin and places it near your hand. It is embroidered with a single stitched path that begins at a tiny doorway and wanders into the trees, then disappears in threads so fine it looks like breath. Some journeys are finished by sleeping, the tea master says quietly, as if speaking to you from somewhere inside the steam. Let the rest come to you. Another breath in and out, again in and out. The chair is a boat, the floor a harbor, the room an evening tide. The rain is now only a memory of rain, the kind that lingers on rooftops as a lullaby. The lanterns dim as if bowing good night. The sign above the door does not creak. It smiles. Here, at the edge of the forest, the teacup is empty and your heart is full of quiet. The pathway home is not far. It is only as far as your next breath. Sleep then, and if you wake for a moment in the dark, remember, the tea house keeps a light for you, and the kettle knows your name.